Okay, let's go ahead and have a bit of a trip to Elmina Central Park. Located in the northwestern part of Selangor, not far away from a town called Sungai Buloh, which is also in the same part of Malaysia, that being the state of Selangor. And of course, yes, this is actually not far away from the holiday township called Shah Alam, not far away from a city called Shah Alam. And this residence is actually quite a new one. In fact, it probably dates back more so than, let's just say, 2020 during, well, let's just call it the virus times. Of course, this video was filmed during at least around December of 2023, just basically days after, sadly, when my dad's mother, unfortunately, passed away on the 28th of November of last year. This video, of course, is one of the most complex videos to ever produce on my YouTube channel, and I'm actually so glad that I've actually got it uploaded onto my YouTube channel. And yes, you'll be seeing lots of birds, lots of iconic bits of nature, and also all kinds of traffic. Considering how much I've been spending my time going to Malaysia, has been quite amazing. Okay, let me tell you about Elmina. And of course, yes, as I'm walking around across through the central iconic bridge, it's actually quite a very iconic thing to master. And while walking around the whole suburb like some sort of disgruntled air crash investigator, I wasn't really aware about what happened with the plane crash that actually happened last year's August. Now that to me was very much a grim and sad story to hear, and that to me sent me shiver down through my spines, and that was really sad to hear because all passengers unfortunately died during that crash. And that crash actually was very much so merely hitting the bridge itself, and that was actually quite very much scary to see. Of course, what came after this plane crash 1 year later is of course the plane crash from Brazil. But hey, let's not go ahead and talk about it because hey, as I'm walking around this miraculously modernized looking bridge, I can see a very wondrous and very well lush and fertile looking recreational park. And I've got lots and lots of stories to talk about this whole entire place. This park here is a classic and amazing example on how Malaysian parks like this one, which are modern, clean and straightforward, well maintained. And yes, it certainly is becoming a bit of a thing, you know, everybody's becoming a lot more environmentally conscious, which I think is a very good thing. Obviously, many of us do. In a sense, seeing around this park here, I can't see any litter, I can't see any trash, and I can't see any garbage at all. All I see is a fantastic atmosphere of cleanliness and such fresh air. It's a wonderful bit of atmosphere to enjoy if you really want to go ahead and do a bit of jogging, a bit of cycling, or you can try and do some very fantastic exercises. And in fact, it's very much open all year round and is also beautiful to visit anytime. And it's also generally considered an easy route and can take about 19 minutes to complete all over around this whole park. Fantastic to look around at. Now, one thing you may have actually noticed is that during the time of making this video, that is of course August time, and yes, all of this footage was done prior to Christmas as I'm doing this video on YouTube, there's also a new lakeside mall that will be open at around just under 10 days time. Seeing this really sort of speculates to me that I can actually come back to this place 1 year later whenever I got the time. Remembering that my family originates from Malaysia, but of course, yes, going back to Malaysia is of course the expense. Now, I know my dad actually would have came to the UK as some sort of country to basically work here, and Malaysia is definitely one place he'll definitely straightforward say himself that he calls home. But of course, yes, we're straightforward annual visitors to Malaysia for that purpose, even though I'm straightforward born from that descendant in the UK, and to be honest, it's not that unusual for that purpose. So surely around Elmina Central Park, there are lots and lots of different activities that you might as well do, like taking a nap in one of those canopies on a blazing hot summer's day, 365 all year round. And yes, while making this video, I can see a big white bird called a great white egret. And for some reason, they actually replaced the seagulls right over from the UK. And strangely enough, that's what these birds tend to do. Apparently, white herons or great egrets and little egrets for that matter, seem to behave more so of a seagull than, well, let's just say what a normal heron should be like. And yes, you can definitely see it flying away, but there's also other birds that you might be able to see across Elmina Central Park. But there is one other bird that is more beautiful than that great white egret or great white heron, was the beauty and the tiny compact essence of the olive-backed sunbird, or some people call it nowadays as the ornate sunbird. Thanks to taxonomists now actually declaring that the olive-backed sunbird is actually a specimen from the Philippines. And of course, the bird that you're seeing here is, I think it's a male, because I think it's got a bit of blue, it's got a bit of black on its face, and that's why. And of course, yes, hence its name, the olive-backed sunbird. It's quite a nice bird to see. It's got its olive body in a sense, and it's also got a yellow belly that you can also see visibly as you see it hovering around, a little bit like some sort of pseudo hummingbird. Seeing the male olive-backed sunbird and the diligent hard work from it is just amazing. No matter how much I can really sort of say to myself, hey, those birds certainly do remind me of hummingbirds, bees, wasps, butterflies and moths, and any other pollinators that do all the hard work and stuff along the way. And yes, as I'm walking through this magnificent, gorgeous looking large waterfall, which looks more like a raging torrent, if you can definitely see it, of course, are a flock of bee-eaters. And the bee-eating birds are, of course, blue-tailed bee-eaters. They've got some fascinating wings, which actually kind of remind me of Batman, or any kind of bat in general, and they're green in colour, as far as I can know. The bee-eaters that you're seeing in this video are the blue-tailed bee-eaters, and yes, they do look like that they are appearing in thermals. It looks like they're just hovering and gliding and flying around in search of flying insects, in particular bees and wasps in general. And yes, like so many members, they will beat them right over when they're perched. Strangely enough, they use it to discharge the stingers, often making it very suitable for a very safe and enjoyable meal, both themselves and yes, and apart for their young. A very beautiful looking cascading waterfall, which appears to be muddy, I can see the bee-eaters flying around in their thermals as it's a really hot day, and I can definitely tell that there's also a warplane flying and basically landing at some sort of airport. Now, you might think that this is KLIA, which is the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, but no, apparently Elmina Central Park is actually built adjacent to Subang Jaya, which apparently is actually home to the Subang Airport, which was once Malaysia's, well, let's just say, it was the international airport at its time, before being replaced by the newer Kuala Lumpur International Airport, which was actually opened up sometime around, well, let's just say during the late 90s, which I can't really remember of when it was opened. Amazingly, the Subang Airport still survives, yet at the same time, it only provides like domestic flight services only across Malaysia. And that, for me, is a very interesting historical change-up. Now yes, as I'm just walking back all the way from Elmina Central Park, and I'm actually going to take you into another place where also it's a great place to actually get along with Mother Nature and also to beat the stress out of it. And of course, yes, you know, it's so nice, you know, going out for long walks whilst I'm just pretty much beating the crap out of my mental health, because unfortunately I actually suffered from a 4-day depression ranging from Wednesday to Saturday on that trip. So yes, it was kind of a bit of a reason why I was a little bit apathetic beyond that trip. However, with that being said, it was so fantastic, it actually let me to put up a smile on my face. And mind you, it's very much hard, but very much impressive. And I could tell you what, if you ever gone outside within Mother Nature, anywhere around the world, you would be actually mighty happy about how life was like at that time. Very simple and very evocative of what things were like. Now, one very cool and amazing thing about the Elmina Bridge is that it's not only just owned by a property company called Sime Darby, which is well known in Malaysia for various buildings and other workplaces and whatnot. It's quite a very large conglomerate somehow for that reason. But yes, one thing I really like about the bridge is that it's actually got a very nice, new, and very much, you know, a bit of a futuristic design. It actually kind of reminds me of walking inside of, well, let's just say, a giant slinky. So that's how I'd like to describe it. How funny is that? And apart from the main attraction, which is of course Elmina Central Park, right in the outskirts is of course various other nature reserve like places like Skanda Roundabout Hill and Subang Dam, which obviously is like, a lake, which in Malay is translated as Tasik. And of course, yes, it's known as the Tasik Subang Dam. So yes, it is built straightforward on the outskirts of Subang Jaya and other places like Sungai Buloh, which is of course a town in, guess where? Selangor State, Malaysia. And I could tell you what, every time when I go out with nature, it's just beyond so amazing and very antique of just how amazing it actually is. And to me, those sort of trips don't really seem to disappoint me because obviously I've been quite fond with the nature of Malaysia for many, many years, to possibly say the least. And I don't know why I always keep on saying that phrase again, to possibly say the least. Oh well, I should stop using it, of course, somehow, throughout the rest of my videos. And just as I'm walking around in this very alienized lake, I can see a pair of great minor birds, which are not as common as the Javan and Indian minor birds, but they are straightforward one of the most common birds to be found in urban areas of Selangor. It's just a fantastic sight just seeing them hopping and strutting about across through some new developments. Now, what's amazing on how Malaysia is doing, it seems like that the population is straightforward increasing, and I've noticed that the birth rate of the national race, being the Malays, are actually rising, whereas the Chinese and the Indians, they're straightforward declining. And I wonder how the birth rate is straightforward going to straightforward make Malaysia remain its dominance and relevance to this point as I'm making this video. And thinking back to the depression that I had about 4 days during December of 2024, this was very much my last day of just how really sad and pretty much pessimistic I was. After a very nasty and gnarly trip I think I might have encountered so far when I went to a local Poundland-like shop called Eco Shop, which actually sells stuff for 2 ringgits. And basically it's very different, or very similar to Poundland. It normally sells a lot of cheap goods and stuff. And yes, one thing I did get a little bit into hot water was I accidentally pulled off the tag of a LED Santa Claus decoration for Christmas. And yes, I actually got into a little bit of trouble with that. So that's when the depression started to kick in. And yes, I did started to basically, whinge out in tears. But hey, a little bit of comfort and then everything starts to revert back to normal. Now, yes, that's very much said. Well, let's just straightforward move into a bit of a positive spirit. And as always, with videos like that on YouTube, whenever I go outside, there's always seems to be, a bit of a negative event, yet it always seems to be countered by a very positive event. It's always like that in everyday life. Now, as only much as I can really say to hope for the best, I can straightforward say to myself that, hey, in order to not make the same mistake for 2024, well, I can't really say that much. And yes, there'll be more of this stuff coming for the latter half of 2024. In fact, we're straightforward coming up to the near end of the year, as sad as it sounds. But hey, I'll promise to make more stuff beyond that point. And it's all good to know. Now yes, apart from a little egret, which is of course a small heron, literally surrounded by some sort of weird wet floodplain meadow type thing, I've seen a lot of swallows, sparrows, and also little sparrow-like birds called scaly-breasted munias, feasting across some sort of weird pseudo-rice paddy field, wetland type area thing not far away from the airport. And yes, since the area is so noisy and straightforward, filled with a raucous amount of traffic, I have to speak up very clear. No matter how straightforward, the time zones are a bit different. From place to place, it really is straightforward, quite tricky, beyond to make really complex videos on YouTube. Now yes, hear me this one out. And of course, yes, I don't really seem to, straightforward produce videos for the satisfaction in either to get the best or the worst. I'm just there enjoying making videos on YouTube to sustain a living. And while setting up this very interesting dynamic, part of me actually thinks I can just straightforward make more videos on YouTube, even though it's pretty much the month of August, where I'm straightforward this time not going to make as much. But another part of me thinks of myself, well, why would I even bother? Because I've got so much trouble with the YouTube systems And yes, even with that being said, it's straight for the uneasy feeling. And yes, while watching some planes, or waiting for some planes to be landing, somehow I can see an oriental garden lizard perching on what seems to be a wired fence. Well, I'm just hoping it's not electrified by that point, and they're actually quite commonly seen across Malaysia, especially amongst urbanized areas and people's gardens. And yes, I can tell you what, this video took quite a lot of time. In fact, it almost took like half a day of producing a video on YouTube, which I feel like I will suffer no else other than just making videos for the sake of YouTube. And boy, did that lizard jump. That was actually somehow fairly enticing than what you'd see on TV. But I'm sort of thinking, the costing of making these videos on YouTube really has sort of made me scratch my head. And that's something that's a little bit pondering and a little bit on the uncertain side. Whether to make more videos on YouTube is going to be a complete uncertainty in the near future. But at the moment, I'm straightforward very much fine. Even though I'm straightforward making this video in the month of August, I'm straightforward, I'll just say it, keeping myself very much on a long hiatus before things go back to normal in the month of September. Enjoy a bit of plane spotting while I take a bit of a break from speaking. I'll be right back shortly, right near the end of this video. But I hope you guys really enjoyed in this amazing complex video that I had to really accomplish so much on YouTube. And if you really enjoyed in this amazing video on my trip to Elmina Central Park, please give this video a like, subscribe for more that videos in the future. And if you really enjoyed those bits of going to Subang Airport, please do so. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye for now.